How's Graham after the way last season ended? How has he looked, been?
Yeah, so, in his last 3 games, I saw the Graham Gano that, he holds himself to that standard, and then I saw him there too. So it was good to see him end the season in kicking form, and he's looked good. Year 17, a guy that's done it at a high level for a long time. There's a lot of respect that guy has just obviously entering the building, and then when you see the way he approaches the game. And part of a specialist's success is not always just the production on the field. It's how you carry yourself in the locker room, how you take care of your body to be present. All those things that he's obviously stayed connected to, and happy he's back.
Is Jude at a point where he could legitimately challenge for that job? Like, could you have a kicking competition in the spring, or is he not there yet?
No, absolutely. I think, if you're on this roster, no matter what position you play, you're competing. You're competing to win the job. And I think everybody's going to have a fair chance at winning whatever job it is, whether it be at the kicker position or any other position. But I would say that Jude, has shown a lot of promise, even from last year kicking in a game. You obviously see the leg talent, you see the leg strength, all those things that, amount to being a good kicker in this league.
You guys decided to bring Amir back. What did you see? What did you think of that? And what did you see from him last year as a returner that got you to that point?
Yeah, multiple things. Number one, a good decision maker. I think when you're talking about the returner spot, you want a guy that when he's out there, he makes good decisions, whether he's in traffic, whether he's in the open field. And then he obviously takes care of that football. That's priority number one. Second thing you saw was production. The guy scored twice in this league, albeit one got called back. But he scored twice, which not many returners in the league last year did that. He's one of the few. And then the next thing is, like, you're always talking about the character of a person and their competitive integrity. That guy has it. You see that in the manner in which he approaches the meetings. Like, you just hear the way he communicates to his teammates, because I'll never claim I can cross a white line. When he's out there, he's the voice, and it's good to hear that voice in the meeting room, which you guys obviously don't hear, but he's able to do that, and his teammates respect that because they know how important it is to him. So you see just a leadership role from a returner standpoint show up, and that's why he's had success and why we're happy to have him back.
When we were out, I think we saw Javon kind of mix in some of the return coverage a little bit. Just how is that helping with having a versatile guy like Javon in the mix who can kind of be there if you need him?
No, absolutely. He's again, on a game day, the roster size is so limited in terms of who you can use. So having the ability to have some flex in an emergency situation that can go back there and field a punt, I think is critical. He's obviously a special athlete, why he's had so much success on defense. But that special athleticism translates to so many different skill sets. Like, he's a guy that obviously can fit a variety of different molds, one of those being return ability. And there's not many people in this league in general that have that ability to translate. Like, you see a defensive player with elite ball skills, a guy that can track it, which is why he's had production again on defense, but also why I feel confident putting him back there in a situation.
Obviously, the kickoff rule is not as drastic a change as it was going into last year, but
Yep.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a tweak there with the touchbacks. How do you think that's going to work out?
Yeah, so like you said, it won't be as drastic of a rule change because we actually have tape of it. A lot of our guys have done it, but there are some differences now. So one of them is the touchback will now be on the 35-yard line. So I think that's going to increase return opportunities. It's going to increase coverage opportunities as well. The next thing is a formational difference. So it might be a little nuanced, but the one thing that you're able to do now, instead of having 2 second-level players on that front line, you can now have 3. So they're little changes, and I think it's allowed for a little bit more variety with what you can do in the return game. But it's also, brought back a play that, like I've said before, was dissolving. So it's good to have this play be back and be part of the game and be an integral part of winning and losing. The drive start after one of those possessions is critical. You're the first play of offense when you're returning the ball. You're the first play of defense when you're covering that kick. So for us, we've been obviously trying to stay connected to the fundamentals it takes to put our offense and defense in good position after that specific play.
I think if I'm not mistaken, you're a pretty analytical guy. Do you know the numbers on starting at the 30 versus starting at the 35, how much of a 5-yard difference that makes in terms of scoring and whatnot?
Yeah, so number one, I would say I do believe in analytics, but that's not always the open line story to me. Like, you have to watch the tape. So, like, I could say that the average drive start last year was on the 29-yard line. But what does that look like based off of kick location? What does that look like based off of depth of kick? What does it look like based off of who you're covering? So that's where sometimes the number isn't always telling. Sometimes the number has to be backed up by, obviously, the tape. But, yeah, we try and stay connected to a little bit of those numbers. One of those being is, obviously the initial drive start after a return being the 29-yard line.
I just meant, like, if you knew how much more likely a team was to score if they start at the 35.
Oh, yeah. So that's always been something. So we basically call it expected points based off of where you start on the field. So expected points on the plus 35 obviously is going to be different than the minus 5-yard line. And you see that percentage go higher and higher, obviously, the closer and closer you get towards your own end zone. So I'll give you an example. The plus 35-yard line increases your chance of scoring points, whether it be a field goal or a PAT, up to 80%. Backed up, that percentage obviously starts to shrink. Let's say it's the minus 3-yard line. That goes inside of 10% in terms of the expected points. So that's why I love special teams. It's a direct correlation whether you're coming out with points or preventing points. And that's something, obviously, like I said, starting on offense, starting on defense, that series is critical for us to be able to position our offense and defense the right way.
On a wider scale, we haven't spoken since the end of the season.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, when you went back and you self-scouted and you went and looked at last season, what did you come away thinking?
Just collectively from all the
like
units.
where maybe, were you happy with it? Were you not happy with what you saw? Where did you maybe want to put concentration in the spring and the summer?
Great question. So every year I do a deep dive on every single unit. I'll look at us, number one, and then I'll look across the league. And just like I talked about analytics, I'll see where we favored in terms of numbers. But again, the tape has got to be revealing to me too. I appreciate the fact that the guys fought through the entirety of the season last year. And you saw a lot of production happen towards, the back end of the season, more consistent play. And the thing that I'm echoing to our guys over and over and over again is consistency is the truest measure of performance. So for us on special teams, we want to be the most consistent unit on every phase. Every game, doesn't matter where we play, is consistency. When we do that, we put our team in position to win. We've obviously had a lot of explosive plays on special teams, and we've given some up. So it's correcting those mistakes and obviously just being as consistent as possible. And, the thing I appreciate with the guys now is the guys that return feel that. The new guys coming in are obviously embracing that, and we're coming together as a team and competing and doing all the things we need to do.
I know you don't sign the guys or whatnot, but I'm sure you have some say in when you have a punter who's a free agent, do you want him back or you want to make a switch? So what did you see from Gillen that you welcomed him back?
Yeah, number one, that's a difficult place to punt, right? Our stadium. And we embrace that. So when you're looking across the league of guys that have the ability to have success in that stadium, number one, you look at a guy that's done it before. And, I believe Jamie had an awesome year last year. When you look at the numbers, again, that won't always be telling, but what he did do a great job of was he pinned the opponent inside the 10-yard line multiple times. So when we talk about playing complementary football, you pin the opponent inside the 10-yard line, defense takes the field, expected points goes less and less percentage-wise. So, he excelled in that fashion. The second thing he excelled in, was obviously the field punts in windy situations, understanding the ability to control returners. So Jamie just excelled in so many different attributes to be a successful punter in that stadium that, we're happy he's back, and, obviously he's hit the ground running, doing a nice job.
Chris Ford is a guy who has a long track record of success in that kind of role, in a special teams role in this league. How important was that signing? Or how important can it be for you guys this year?
Yeah, Chris is, number one, comes from a playoff team. So you bring a guy that was part of a winning culture. And then you bring a guy in that it's not his rookie year, right? It's his 7th year in the league. And just not the veteran experience. It's a guy that's produced consistently every year he's been in the league. He's been one of the top 5 leading tacklers on special teams for the past few years. And you see all the traits physically that he has show up when he's doing all this drill work. But then you obviously see the mental side of the game show up too. He's just covered so many kicks that he sees the game at a different speed than other people. Where some guys may do the drill, they may do the technique, they don't always have the experience to say, I've been in that position. He's been in that position so many times and he's produced. So having a guy like Chris is awesome because, even starting a drill in these practices, it's like, Chris, you're the first guy up. Okay, fellas, that's exactly how I want it to look like, so we call those guys tone setters. It's not always something that they have to excel in vocally. It's sometimes just your actions, and I think he's a guy that embodies all that.
So how important was it to sign a guy like that? Like, was that like a goal of the offseason for you? Like, okay, we need to find that kind of guy, the tone setter, the veteran, the guy that had success.
Yeah, no, he was a guy that I've followed the past few years. That I'm like, I hope one day I get to coach this guy. So obviously when we signed him, I was ultra excited because I know his ability and I know what what he can do to impact this team. So. But really happy that we signed him, and excited to coach him.
Who among the draft picks did you say when they came in? You said, "Oh, that's a guy. That's a guy."
Yeah. So I evaluate everybody that's a projected draftable guy, and then undrafted free agents as well. Don't necessarily get into when a guy is picked and all that. But, for me, when I'm evaluating these college guys, and this is going to be somewhat long-winded, so I apologize. You see none of our game anymore translate to what they did in college in terms of the rules, right? New kickoff return, new punt return. Those are all completely different now. But you do see the purest form of football still. Block destruction, using your hands, ball skills, football IQ, you see those things show up offensively and defensively. So when I'm looking at each of these players, I'm looking at what can they do. And when I look at everybody that, we accumulate in the draft process, I'm always looking like, okay, this guy has a skill set to do this. This guy has a skill set to do this. And I'll give you an example of Scattaboo. Scat is a physical player. You see that with his running style. So when I look at a player like that, I'm like, okay, he's going to have the toughness to be able to compete with interior core roles. I wouldn't have any issue matching him up against a inside backer in this league because I know he has that physical trait. So there's always like a piece of every one of these draft picks that I'm like, okay, this is how I can use them. Now, ultimately, preseason is going to be very telling for all these guys. So excited all these guys are here, and they've all come in with a chip on their shoulder, excited to compete, and are truly learning the game, but also showing me why they belong in this league. So, I know I just singled him out, but there's other guys in that instance as well.
I couldn't help but notice in rookie minicamp, and I get it, it's rookie minicamp, but while you were working with Scattaboo, Abdul Carter was there too. He's the number 3 pick in the draft. I can't imagine those guys play special teams a lot. Is that something you're under consideration?
We'll never get into roles this early in the year. But the one thing I'll say about Abdul is, regardless of where he was picked, that guy is a competitor that obviously has a special skill set, which is why he went so early. I would be fired up if he was on our special teams units, but we won't get into, obviously the volume of snaps. That all depends on how much defense, how much offense a guy's playing. So the one thing I will say is, like, you gain from those instances, like, truly how competitive a guy is. And when a guy has obviously the feel that he's a really good offensive defensive player and still shows up and is willing to learn, willing to put the effort, you're like, okay, we got the right football player. Do I want 50 Abdul Carters? Absolutely, yeah. I mean, those guys are a special player. But yeah.
Just to get back to Canvas for a quick second, how much tackling has he done? And do you have to kind of start from scratch there?
With any offensive player, like, how much tackling do they actually do? Unless there was a turnover, like, you don't necessarily see him pursue a ball carrier and go tackle. But the one thing I look at is how he tracks in blocking. So if you can track inside backer blitzing, if you could track a defense end pressuring off the edge, that to me shows up in the skill set of tackling, because I'm like, okay, tackling is all about tracking. If you track and have the ability to take an extra step, it's about form fitting at that point. So I do think that's something we got to stay connected to with any offensive guy. But specifically with him, it's going to be more so the fit up the tackle. I know he can track because I see that with the block mechanics.